Hi everybody and welcome to Smack Talk. My name's Rich and today I'm joined by none other than the prestigious one himself. Give us your intro, my man.
Joe Hendry. Now that's a whisper rather than a shout because my dog Gromit is currently asleep right now, and I want it to remain that way. So I'm just gonna. This will probably be the max volume we get, but the sentiment was there.
The sentiment is there, and we don't have the budget to include Gromit on the podcast either, so
No.
best that he stays asleep.
His fee's outrageous.
Oh,
he's
insane.
Silly fees.
He's out. I think he's out doing Pharaoh for fees for appearances now, right?
He's not quite there, but I think if he gets the big match with Pharaoh at Dog Kingdom 2020, then I think he'll be looking for that big payday. I think.
Oh, it's got to happen, right? The golden bonio's on the line.
Knowing my luck, he'll get signed before me.
Well, that's highly likely, and I don't like to say that because obviously you are the prestigious one and have got a wealth of history both in amateur and professional wrestling and beyond. So let's just give it a bit of a backstory here because we met in December 2018 at it was Fight Forever Inferno in Bristol.
Yes.
And to give you props, you were I think the only person that stayed at your merch stand the entire time you weren't wrestling practically.
Well, what I'll do is, to be honest, I won't go there when other people are wrestling, because I kind of see that as, I don't want to I don't want to pull any audience members away.
Sure.
Like I can't remember who it was. I heard a podcast before I became a wrestler and someone was talking about they hate wrestlers that sell merch during matches. So don't do that. But other than that, I'm out there at every possible opportunities. So I'm talking before the show, the entirety of the interval, after the show, any little breaks in between, even if there's 5 minutes, I'll jump out there because at the end of the day, it's when you're a free agent like myself, it's the merch that pays the bills.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a credit to yourself, for your work ethic, and we'll touch upon your work ethic in a bit. And obviously, you mentioned you're a free agent now. You left Impact Wrestling this year, and obviously became the most prestigious free agent in wrestling. So, what was it that actually prompted that decision?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it would, it's a variety of reasons. I think that, to be honest, it's one of those things where, when people break up and they go, oh, it was mutual, and you're like, oh, no, it's not. But in this case, it was mutual because, to be honest, Impact wanted me to sign to a deal that I didn't want to sign, and they wanted me to. So basically, they wanted me to give something I couldn't give. I wanted them to give something that they couldn't give. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I think we both just weren't in the right spot to work together right now, and I completely respect that, and they've been completely respectful to me, and it's not to say that the door is closed. I've only got favorable things to say about Impact Wrestling. It was amazing fun for me, but right now, I think it's time to take a bet on myself. I really enjoyed being in Impact Wrestling, but I think in today's market, I think the right decision for me to do for what to do is because, to be honest, if anything, it's me being honest about where I'm at, and what people will notice, especially if they saw me at ICW last night, is you'll see a serious change in my physique. Also, my in-ring work and just my overall confidence as well. I've decided to take a step back because right now, look, to be honest, I wasn't getting the offers that I thought that I would get. So I have to put the responsibility on myself. I can't then go, oh, well, I'm worth more than that. Well, you're not worth more than that because you're worth whatever the market is willing to pay. So I want to, make a good life for myself, and I want to start a family and stuff like that. So I want to be financially secure, and I want to be successful in the business. But in order to do that, I need to kind of prove that I am who I say I am. I need to get in phenomenal shape. I need to start have better matches. I need to continue with the entrances again. And like you say, my work ethic just has to be completely unstoppable. And so what I've done actually is, to be honest, I'd reached out to multiple companies. I've had multiple offers from multiple organizations in the past. And before, I didn't take the offer because I didn't think I was ready at the time. It was very early in my career, and it was kind of before things really picked up. But I reached out to a few organizations now, and again, I thought to myself, rather than kind of go out and try and kind of do the old, oh, can I have some more, please, approach. It was like, no, hang on a second. That's not how it's done. How would a top talent do it? They would make themselves a top talent. They would make themselves valuable, and they would make people come to them, and that's what I'm going to do. So I made the decision to take a step back, improve everything, and I'm just going to do that. And all I am focused on, I'm not focused. I don't need any opportunities right now. And that sounds really weird to say. Why would a professional wrestler say that? I'm saying that because the only thing that I need to do right now is to get better and to make myself as good as I can possibly be. So I'm ready for those opportunities.
That makes total sense. And you've touched upon focus in the past as well with the promo you cut at, it was Defiant Loaded 3 last December. And you said in that promo about, if you're focused and you believe and you go for your dreams, and they will happen. And, you can see that in the way that you've been promoting Free Agent, the Joe Hendry Story, which is coming out on February the 15th. Is that right? Or was it? No, March the 1st, beg your pardon. You dropped the trailer on Feb 15th.
I would have to jump in a time machine and go back to the 15th to do it on the 15th.
Sorry,
we don't have that budget. We don't have that budget. We do have the budget to do it on March 1st.
And do you know what?
So yes, March 1st, and it's scary, man. That is. I've got 3 working days to get basically those 2 episodes ready, and in between, I've got to do 2 podcasts in that time as well.
Oof.
So it's scary, man, because basically, when people sign up to the Patreon, they get the next week's episode immediately. So 2 episodes need to be ready to rock on March 1st. Also on March 1st, we'll be able to see your T-shirt debuting as well that you've done for the Prestigious.
Well, that's a nice little plug there, and I didn't expect you to do that, so thank you for that one. Yeah, we that was kind of the continuation of after we met, wasn't it? Was the doing the T-shirt for your Patreon and the podcast.
Basically, I kind of like, me, we've spoken about this before. I'm a huge fan of Gary Vee and the way that he does business, and your hustle, if you will, reminded me of that. Because where I was at, like, I did not need at that time another T-shirt designer. I've worked with the same person since I started professional wrestling, and me and him we've been working on things from day one, and that's never going to change. We'll always work on shirts, right? And the thing is, we've got loads of plans down the line, but you came out from a different angle, and I was like, I don't think I really need this. And then you showed me the T-shirt that you did for Cody with the cartoon, and I was like, you know what? I was like, there's something in that, like the T-shirt you did for Cody. I was like, that's just so different. Like that, I began to envision what could we do, and I thought to myself, right, and then, but I didn't really think much of it. But then you kept at it, and I thought, if this person is willing to put in this much effort to make this piece of business happen, then the likelihood is that they're going to do it well. They're going to give it the care and attention that it needs and deliver it on time. And that's exactly what happened. So you kind of created business for yourself there. And that's, obviously you've done that on a bigger scale. You've done, I don't know if you want to announce it now, but you've done more, you've got more big T-shirts coming out. And I'm glad, just as a bystander, to see you having this success in your career, because I like to see hard work paying off,
Well, I really appreciate. It's like turned into an ego massage for me now, and it's like I really appreciate that, man. That means so much to me. And you mentioned Gary Vee, and when you said that on your podcast, the Joe Hendry Show, which is available on YouTube and all good podcast platforms. There you go. I'll throw you a plug back, man. We'll mutually plug each other, but that sounds wrong. Wait, where was I going with this? Yeah, you mentioned Gary Vee, and I'm a huge fan of his stuff. Some of my friends in the Gaijin Club, Matt, and some of the other guys, have mentioned Gary Vee and said, "Oh, you should rewatch his stuff, and it's you'll love it. It will really help you, and all this sort of thing." So I've been watching it for a while, man. And dude, when you said that, I swear to God, I was sat there watching it, and my jaw just dropped and hit the desk. I was like, "No way has he just compared me to Gary Vee."
But do you know what? That's so cool. It's so cool because that's proof that you've been putting these things into practice. That's a very specific reference, And I mean, if you look at, like, even I've noticed how it's changed my work ethic now as well. Like, he talks about this thing about providing value to others. So instead of making things for money, like going, "Oh, I'm doing this T-shirt to raise money." Well, sure, we get that, right? But see, if you go into it with that intent, then okay, you're going to make a few quid. But if you go into your work with the intent of, how can I give people value? How can I give them the best wrestling T-shirt possible? The money's going to come anyway,
Yeah, absolutely right. And I touched on this with Dave Wisnowski in the last podcast. We were saying, like, he makes Pro Wrestling X because it's the game he wants to make for, himself as a wrestling fan and a wrestling
Mhm.
game fan. And likewise with
Yeah,
myself with the shirts, the reason I do them is, aside from, it's a method of coping with anxiety, it's because the idea that those shirts will be forever etched in wrestling history, like once they sell,
yeah,
people will have them forever. They will always be there. And like my biggest two
yeah,
goals were to see a member of the crowd, a fan wearing one of my shirts on TV, and to see a wrestler wearing one
yeah,
of my shirts on TV. And that's
yeah.
happened, and that meant everything to me. Same with the
Amazing.
drum shop when I did that. I absolutely categorically said, if I help one person change their life by doing this, then I could go bankrupt the next day and not care.
Yeah.
Money is so like tertiary to me. Um, Obviously, that's not the greatest business ethic in the world, but
No, I disagree though, right? And this is something I've come to learn as well because
Mm,
I've had various business ventures in the past that have failed, right? And they've not failed because they were necessarily bad ideas.
mm,
They failed because I wasn't passionate enough about them. The things that are really going to be successful for you are the things that you would do anyway, regardless of whether money's involved. You know what I mean?
mm,
Because, for example, if you want to be a pro wrestler, you have to truly love it because of all the tough times that you have to go through with what you're doing and the journey you're going on, to do this professionally. You have to love it so much that you're willing to endure all those tough times to eventually achieve your dream. And you need that passion to do it. You
mm.
know what I mean? And so that's why to me, like, I think there always has to be a balance, but it should always weigh in favor of the creativity and giving people something awesome. The money, I'm not saying it should be an afterthought, but it should kind of be an afterthought, you know?
Yeah, and that's
Maybe it should.
oh yeah. I mean, that's categorically true about your entire career. Not just as a wrestler, but you were also a signed musician at one stage.
Well, I'm going to stop you there because I wasn't actually.
Aha,
It's actually
Wikipedia
no
lied.
matter, yeah, it does. No matter how many interviews I do, in every interview that asks me about it, I say it's not true,
Okay.
but it's still there. I even tried to take it down myself, and it's still there. We came close to doing a deal. So basically, we were over in New York at one point, and we had a meeting with an A&R senior vice president. We were underneath basically Clive Davis's office. He's like basically the most powerful music industry mogul ever. We're
Hmm.
literally underneath the dude in like a few floors below in the big Sony building. They don't have that building anymore. And it was a
Hmm.
guy actually called uh, Bill Burrs, not Bill Burr, I think. But it was before he was huge as a comedian, so there wasn't the confusion.
Right.
But basically, this guy had worked on the Weezer Blue album, for example.
Ah.
So which is one of my favorite albums of all time, which is why we use that as the basis for the T-shirt that you've done for me, right?
Yeah.
That's one way to tie it back. But basically, I'm kind of just marking it big time because this guy's worked on so many albums when he worked at Geffen that I was a fan of, and he basically just turns around and he says, you live in the UK. We have got no links really with basically their division. They were in charge of RCA,
Hmm.
which is like within Sony. They've got like Justin Timberlake and Foo Fighters and just loads of big bands. But they were like, we don't have any links with RCA UK, so we can't really manage you from here. And in order to invest and get visas and all that, like, we'd be talking about, you know, he said, put it this way: if it was 5 years ago and we had loads of money, like we did 5 years ago, he said, and if you'd came 5 years earlier, I'd have given you a 2 album deal on the spot because I don't know what it is, but I know you have something. You've got something. I don't know what it is. I think you've got something to offer the world. I don't know what it is yet. I'd have given you a 2 album deal. But, we don't have a lot of money right now because of the recession and da 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 da.
Hmm.
If you had a million hits on YouTube, if you can go and get a million hits on YouTube, then I would give you a 1 or 2 album deal just to see how we get along. And I went away, and the funny thing is, I've got many millions of hits on YouTube now, but just probably not for the same thing. And the crazy thing is, he had an intercontinental title belt in his office, and I kept trying to steer the conversation towards wrestling, but he was having none of it. To think, maybe if I kind of make a connection there, it'll buy us a bit more time. But it just wasn't to be. And then we got offered an independent deal, which would have tied me down for 7 years. And the crazy thing is that I'm glad we didn't, because it was just like a total BS label. It was like, like I don't know what was going on with it, but this guy was there was all these promises, but as soon as we took it to a lawyer, basically we found out that it was just basically a ploy to buy the band and all of our assets and all the songs and all the back catalogue for $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Which, when I'd been doing it for, 10 years at that point, it was just like, Jesus, like I just couldn't do that. So
crazy.
at that point, music was always the number two dream, and I didn't have the balls to be a wrestler. So I was like, well, my number two dream didn't work out, so let's try the number one dream. And there we go. It's like what we said, if you're passionate enough about it, you'll find a way.
Oh yeah, totally, man. And that deal's crazy. Like, what was it, 7 years tied in, and then they own your back catalogue as well?
Yeah, like it was 7 years, and it was like it said 7 years, $300,000, and you're like, oh well, $300,000 is a lot of money, but to unlock that money, we had to achieve X amount of sales, and it was like impossible sales targets. So it was basically just a ploy. The only money they had to actually release was $10,000. So I could have been locked down for like 7 years for like 10 grand,
Jeez, yeah, I think you made the right call on that one, definitely.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
Do you think your man at Sony ever watches your pro wrestling and goes, damn, I wish I'd signed that guy?
Well, the crazy thing was, I actually saw online that I think WWE Music has some affiliation with RCA within Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought to myself, if I ever end up at WWE, that would just be such a cool crossover. But I think Bill has since retired, although I would love to reach out and just, I love New York. I absolutely love New York. I've only been a few times in my life, but I would just, I would love the opportunity to go back. And if I get to go back, I will reach out and just try and meet him for a coffee and just, just because the industry, music industry is just like wrestling is just so full of sharks, and he was just so cool,
So are we going to see you in New York in April?
I wouldn't think so. Basically, one of the reasons for me kind of taking the stance I have is because if I'm kind of signing with somebody, I need a visa immediately. I can't do to be honest with you, the whole independent free agent thing, the only thing that really sucks about that is not having a visa. I was actually, to be honest, that was the main reason for signing with other companies. I just, to be honest with you, I would have taken any deal that allowed me to control my schedule and gave me a visa, because my thought process was, well, it doesn't really matter like what kind of money I make if I can have control over my independent dates, because I can make my money there, but as long as I have my visa type thing. But just like the length of the deal as well, I was like, I kind of, just the situation I'm in, it's that not having the visa is the one thing that sucks about not being signed. Well, it's, there's several things, but the visa is just, I wish there was a way around that. It's so difficult I don't think American pro wrestlers realize how lucky they are to be able to wrestle wherever they want.
Yeah, that is, it's even in other walks of life, like even as musicians or whatever, that visa thing. And obviously with Brexit looming, or potentially looming, that could be a situation in Europe as well. So it closes even more barriers.
It's just, the whole, I could talk about that for an hour as well. I mean, the British political system is just a farce at the moment, it's just, it's crazy. Like, I mean, it's literally, do you remember that show, The Thick of It, which parodied British politics?
Yeah.
That wouldn't be relevant anymore because real life has surpassed how ludicrous
that show could ever be. Loads of satirists are saying like there's no satire left because real politics with with Trump and with everything going on with Brexit is so like you said, surpassed the comedy. Like it's
it actually, like I've even encountered that myself. So with Free Agent, there's a scene with our agent, Steve Linsky, and he's going, I'm asking, what do I have to do to be successful? And he's going, Joe, it's not about, wrestling holds and, all that. It's about dicks, tampons, thumbs up the arses. And the thing is, that's not satire. Those have all actually happened in wrestling matches.
Oh my God. Yeah. Do you know what? Every week I turn on wrestling. I watch a lot of wrestling. And every week I'm surprised. And I sit there and I put my fucking head in my hand. And I just go, oh, why? And I think you talked about on the Joe Hendry show with Jake and Dave. You talked about
Yeah.
the tampon thing, and you showed the
Yeah.
guys the clip, and their reaction summed up everything I ever felt about that. It's
Yeah, I
utterly
mean,
priceless.
yeah, I mean, well, we did a whole podcast about that one. I
Mm.
mean, to be honest with you, I tend to come at things from an each to their own perspective,
Yeah.
but I think there's a line with protecting the business, and my worry about, the tampon spot and such is it's like, to be honest with you, we live in a weird time where someone will do something like that, and that will generate like, an insane amount of hatred towards them,
Hmm.
which is kind of disproportionate because you get like actual criminals who people don't really give that much hassle to, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon of like terrorizing this one person who did that
Mhm.
spot in a match. Because people have done worse. People
Oh,
have
yeah.
done worse in companies that I've wrestled for. You know what I mean? But my worry is, that's the kind of stuff that gets shared on like Lad Bible and Sport Bible and stuff like that. And when non-wrestling fans see it, they go, "Oh, right, so that's what wrestling is now." Oh, God, I'll give that a miss then.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, you've wrestled both as a heel and a face throughout your career. And do you feel that there's people are losing the idea of what heel heat and genuine hatred are? Like, there's a significant difference between I genuinely despise this person and I hate them because they're a bad guy.
I mean, in terms of like protecting the business, I do have thoughts on this,
Yeah,
but I probably wouldn't get into it on a public podcast, to be honest.
sure,
Like
sure.
I'd probably draw the line for that. I do have some thoughts on that. I will speak broadly on it in this sense, and I will say I've been, trust me, like the hatred I was getting as WCPW champion.
Hmm.
I thought to myself like that I didn't. See, here's the difficulty. When I was WCPW champion, right? I've got the choice. Do I do this move off the top rope, or do I punch this guy in the nuts? Do I do a cool striking combination, or do I poke him in the eye? You know what I mean? And I don't think people really got what I was trying to do. I think they just thought I was crap. You know what I mean? So it was like, that's how I'll speak on that point of view.
Mm,
So I think about it, and it just, as a free agent, there's almost no business benefit to me being a bad guy,
sure.
and that's kind of sad because in ring, like, I do feel that's where I perform best. But I think if you are going to be a true bad guy, you need the backing. What culture? I did have that. They were very supportive of me in that role. But independently, standing on my own 2 feet, I just, if you're telling me I'll get this booking at the weekend and I'm to be a villain, how many, and if we're talking about, like I said, not doing any cool moves, just poke to the eye, kick to the nuts, and that's it. How many t-shirts am I going to sell? Whereas if I go and I'm, the good guy, how many t-shirts am I going to sell? If I know I'm on a contract and, maybe that's going to change my opinion as to my situation currently being a free agent, well, another 5 t-shirts to me could be, the difference between comfort and struggle. So,
And that's a huge difference. Like you said, as a free agent, you really need every capacity to earn, because you want to, as you said, you want to start a family and go down that path of having that future with your partner and everything.
the
So
weird, the weird thing is though, right? Like, where I'm at right now in life, I've kind of thrown all, and I have no problem doing this. It's like it's a very similar sentiment to All In and Double or Nothing, but it's like I've kind of thrown all my chips in
mhm,
many times, and I'm doing that right now with this Patreon. And to be honest, if this Patreon didn't become successful, then that would leave me in some trouble because I've really invested everything in it.
mhm,
But I just know it will be successful because what we've created is good. I know I've got many faults, but one of my strengths is I know what's good and I know what's bad. And I look at free agent and I'm like, that is a good piece of business. That is people enjoy the podcast, people enjoy our kind of banterous one, and people enjoy how to become a pro wrestler as well. And I'm like, we're creating good stuff and people will support us because it's good. We're giving people value, and I kind of stand by that.
Yeah, obviously, you've mentioned there how to be a pro wrestler and, all your podcasts, your YouTube series, you regularly stream on Twitch as well. You're an avid gamer. Like, how do you find not just motivation, but how do you find time to have any relaxation time?
Yeah, I gotta be honest, it's something I've struggled with throughout, you know, my entire adult life. I have, I've even had some kind of, I really can empathize with those who have had mental health issues and anxiety and depression. And I think it's things that have affected me, especially when I've been overworked. And I really do try to find balance. And I think one of the things that's helped me find balance is to have a dog because it's weird. It's like this little creature gives me another 2 hours of tasks. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
he's a whippet, so he needs like long walks. Like he needs like serious walking at this point in his life. So I'll take him out in the morning for an hour, and then I'll take him out in the evening for probably about 40 minutes to an hour as well. So it's more tasks, and I'm like, God, I've got even less time. But I feel like just caring for something that relies on me entirely just gives me this new sense of responsibility and joy that I haven't really had before and focus in my life, and it's kind of I think that really helped me shake a lot of feelings of like anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So that really helped. And because I do kind of get lost in my work too much sometimes.
Hmm.
And I think before I had all this pressure on me, oh, I need to achieve this and need to achieve that. And this sounds like a really weird thing, but I don't really, this year, I've promised myself that I'm not going to care if I get signed or win a debut or whatever, because that doesn't matter. It's what we talked about before. It's the intent. My
Hmm.
only intent is to entertain and to do the absolute best work possible. So, in that sense, I can't fail. All I have to do is literally do my best. Whereas before, I was just, that's what I can control. Whereas what I couldn't control is who's going to sign me or who's going to book me or whatever. Now that stuff doesn't matter to me. It's so weird, man. And it's such a freeing thing because it's like, I've realized I have no control over it. So all I'm worrying about is the stuff that I can control. So now it's a joy for me to work because like I basically what I'll do is my girlfriend will go to work early in the morning. I'll take the dog out, and then when I come back, you know I'll start working. I'll probably do some editing, some emails, like calls. Like I have a day a week that's kind of my meetings day. So
Hmm.
I'll usually maybe drive down to Newcastle or whatever. Like last week, I caught up with Cultaholic and the guys from Defiant and stuff like that. And so I'll usually try and get in at least like a couple of meetings, just because I think it's good to get out and about and meet people. And so I do that, and I'm keeping busy with that. And um, but I like I say, my podcasting and all the content that I do, and I think it really helps to have just like a schedule. So Wednesday is like my content day. We film Free Agent on Wednesday, and we podcast, and I stream that day. So if I can do that, I've captured loads of content. And what I do as well is, so that content goes out on Twitch, but then it's refined and goes out on YouTube. It goes out in podcast format, and it goes out on Facebook as well. So it's like I'm getting kind of 3 or 4 times the output from one. Whereas before, I was kind of editing videos and they'd maybe only be used once and there was a lot of editing time. Whereas a lot of the content I'm creating now doesn't require a lot of editing time. So it's just a lot of the enjoyable stuff. I accept, I'll be editing for 4 or 5 hours a week, and that's an acceptable amount to me because at the moment I'm doing a trailer every day for Free Agent, which I'll spend maybe 40 minutes doing that, an hour doing that, or whatever. But then, my girlfriend will come home and we'll have dinner. We'll maybe take the dog for a quick walk or whatever. And we'll watch a few things on telly, play a few Mario Kart tournaments. And then when it gets to about midnight is when I'll go to the gym. And so I'll wrap up at the gym at probably about uh, 2 o'clock, something like that, and then I'll be in bed for three. And like I say, I kind of I'm a bit more nocturnal now, so I don't mind. I'm happy to sleep for I know all these crazy people, talk about get up at 4 in the morning and all that stuff, but for me, I'm uh I'm really serious about kind of recovery and. You need sleep to build muscle, and so I operate on 7 or 8 hours sleep. So that's my entire schedule, and I just find a way to make it work.
That's absolutely mental. Like I mean, I'm on record as saying I don't even run for food because like I'm kind of like a really lazy person. But as a as a drummer, and I'm sure you know as a musician, like you burn a hell of a lot of calories
Oh
anyway.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
they said it was like 600 calories in an hour of intense drumming or something like that.
yeah.
So
Probably.
for me, it was kind of a different schedule thing. Like I do an hour's or 3 hour band practice every week. So I'm kind of like, well, that's good calorie burning. And I play cricket, play badminton, like do all that stuff. And then the rest of the time, I literally spend it looking at computer screens, going, right, I need to do this website, that website, need to edit this, contact this guy, contact that guy.
But that's
You know,
still work, though.
yeah.
That is still work. Don't ever think that it's not. You know.
Don't you ever? I mean, again, Dave and I talked about this on the last podcast. Do you feel like it doesn't feel like work because it's what you enjoy and you're so motivated with it that, you know, as you said, your intent is there and the journey is far more important than the destination. So do you ever feel like you're actually working, or is it just more that you're
Oh,
enjoying
I
it?
mean, to be honest, again, I'm always honest with my fans, and I'm not really good at, you know, being dishonest. So I just answer this truthfully that I did not enjoy wrestling for probably about 2 years, I would say,
Hmm.
because the pressure was just so intense. Because I felt like, because I hadn't been in the business that long, and I'm wrestling like huge names all over the world, and it's like I felt, I wasn't delivering, I wasn't good enough, this, that, and the next thing. So I really didn't enjoy the process for 2 years. I was all about the destination. As long as the destination was met, it didn't matter. And then now that I'm 30, you get a bit of life perspective, and it's like, no, you're right. It is all about the journey. And that's why I'm not caring where I wrestle or where I end up. And it allows you to live with dignity. You know what I mean? You don't have to accept crap. You don't have to devalue yourself. You don't have to beg for a job. You don't have to put yourself in a position. And you know what I mean? Do you think AEW or ROH or WWE or Impact or whatever, do you think they want people, begging for jobs and in that position? You don't want to end up like that. It's better trust me, if you go to one of these companies, it's almost like you're saying, I don't trust your ability to find talent, I like Booker T's approach, which was like, I'll just aim to be the best, and they'll find me. And some people would say that's a weird approach, but to me, I think that's the way to do it, especially in today's day and age with the exposure that you got on social media and stuff like that. And in terms of enjoying it, I feel bad for my girlfriend. She has to go and do these long shifts in a job she doesn't really enjoy, and I've been there myself before. So anytime, don't get me wrong, well, I guess what I'm saying with wrestling is, like, when I didn't enjoy it for a few years, it did feel like work then, and I got really anxious going to shows and all that, because, oh, what about this, what about that, what about this? So even I learned to just, like, switch off from the stuff that I have no control over. Like, that really helped a lot. And now, like, last night at ICW, was in the Square Go, and I was number 30, but I eliminated, I think it was something like, honestly, it was about a third of the roster. So a pretty good showing for me.
That's it.
I was in a, and I had myself and Liam Thompson had the final stretch.
Mhm.
And usually I've never been kind of entrusted with that position in ICW, whereas, like, that was a major, major role in the Square Go, which was the main event. So I felt like I am main eventing this show,
Mhm.
and it was just like, before, I'd always kind of had the mentality of, okay, I just need to get through this. Whereas last night I was like, I am here to showcase my skills. I'm going to walk through that curtain and everyone's going to know that I am the best, whether I believe it in my head or whatever. Like, I'm going to walk through that curtain and that's just going to be clear. And I need to do whatever I need to do to make that happen. So now, and last night I was like, oh, I've got this weird feeling in my stomach. What is this? And I was like, oh my God, this is excitement. This is excitement about what's about to happen. Whereas usually it's fear and anxiety.
Mhm. Oh,
So things are good. I absolutely love what I'm doing now. And I couldn't be happier. Whereas it's a weird thing. 2018, I won my second British title, I had the Commonwealth Games, started with Impact, started with World of Sport. In terms of career progression, that was the biggest year of my career. But this year, I haven't had any of those things, but I feel that I'm producing better work than I ever have right now. And I'm happier than I've ever been. And I know that the long game is going to pay off. So it's weird how things work out, but I'm loving what I'm doing right now.
Oh man, and I can completely relate to that with with the design stuff, and we talked about that off
Yeah.
air. So Yeah, it's great to hear that you're doing so well, and I love seeing the content coming out each week. Love watching the podcast, and
Thanks, man. I
joining in.
appreciate it, and it's great to we've worked together professionally on the t-shirt, but it means a lot to me that you take the time to listen to the podcast as well. And like I say, I think your design work's awesome, and it's just like it is good to have a network of creative people. You know what I mean? It's a good thing to be involved with. So it's
Bless your heart,
it's
my man.
no, you too, man.
I always like to finish these on a positive. So, is there anybody that's not me that you'd like to give a shout out to that doesn't sort of normally get a mention, or that's been a big help in your career? Or
good question. Who would I give a shout out to that doesn't really get a shout out? Well, I'll tell you what. One would be, I'm going to say Dave Conrad, who's on the podcast. And the reason I'm going to give him a shout out is because he's had a really rough deal in pro wrestling. Like, a lot of people have just been assholes to him, and I've kind of really been his only ally in this business at times. And I've always known that he was talented, but no one's like behind the scenes has believed me, and it's been the most frustrating thing in the world. But now with Free Agent, it's like people are actually starting to see what he can do on the mic and the promos that he can do and the content he can put out. And, it's like people will listen to the podcast, and it was like, I can't remember who it was. There was like 3 or 4 people tell me that Dave's like one of the funniest parts of it, and it's like, so I'm excited to see. A lot of people are going to have to eat their words when they see what Dave can do on Free Agent. So I'm excited for that, because I do believe the cream always rises to the top, and I think that Dave's going to get some opportunities this year, and that is as exciting to me as my own stuff.
Oh yeah, man, Dave deserves so many props. Like, just from a fan perspective, like having seen him on your podcast and seeing him on Twitter, and like when you see him on the YouTube videos, and everyone should absolutely go and check these out. When he's talking, there's so much passion in his voice. Like, and it's in his eyes. Like he's hungry and wants to succeed. You can see it. And if he doesn't get the bookings, it's a travesty, because he deserves every single booking he gets.
And you know what? He's so solid in the ring as well. But the problem is, we live in a GIF era. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And Dave's a bit like myself in that he's always had the fundamentals, but he's a throwback. He's an Arn Anderson. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's hard to really kind of condense everything that Dave does into something that's immediately shareable on Twitter. He's just a throwback classic wrestler as well. So I think this year, towards the end, I think the latter half of 2019 is going to be a kind of breakout period for him. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Absolutely, man. So where can we find you on social media? Like, what are your connections?
Well, the main thing that I would ask people to do is subscribe to the YouTube right now. We've seen incredible growth on that. Basically, when I uploaded the Free Agent trailer, I think it was about a week ago, maybe, or like you say, 10 days ago, something like that. We had 2,900 subscribers on YouTube, and we've now got 4,350.
Wow!
So that's quite a lot of growth for a kind of small channel, So I'm quite excited about that. My goal is to hit 10,000 by the end of the year, and I think that given what we've been doing, I think that we'll do that. And as you know, with YouTube, it's like 10,000 is kind of that point where that's kind of okay, right, we've got a real shot here. I think once you get past 10,000, that's when it's kind of exponential from there. I think getting that first 10,000 is the big battle. I think after that, it's about being consistent with your content, but the battle for 10,000 is what makes or breaks you on YouTube, I think. So if people could subscribe to the YouTube, it'd be awesome. It's youtube.com/Joe Hendry. My Twitter's Joe S. Hendry. My Instagram needs a bit of love. Don't have a huge amount of followers there. It's just @Joe Hendry. And that's what I plug at the moment. Yeah, but the YouTube's the main thing. youtube.com/Joe Hendry.
Sweet. Well, we'll always pop all the links in the description of the video so everyone can find you really easily. Hey, no worries, man.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Prestigious One, for taking the time out of your very packed schedule to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, no worries, man. Just like to say, obviously, don't forget to grab your merch at smacktalk.co.uk. Everything you buy helps us bring you more unique and diverse content. As always, like and share this video, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified with each new video we upload. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.